Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at Ace Spec trainer cards. And I want to tell you that Pokemon have been doing something with Ace Spec trainer cards since they got re-released, re-revealed, re-upped, call it what you will. They are just way better now. We had Ace Specs back in the Gen 5 era. They went away for a very long time. They have come back in the recently released Temporal Forces, and I'm telling you right now, Ace Specs in the modern era are way better than they were when we had them last time, and this is absolutely wonderful. Also, if anybody's counting, there were 13 Ace Specs in total last time. By the time we get Twilight Masquerade, which is the next set, that will give us exactly 13 Ace Specs. So if they carry on past Twilight Masquerade, we will have more Ace Specs than we had last time. If they stop in Twilight Masquerade, we will even up and have the same number that we did last time. So when we had them last time, let's have a little bit of a history lesson, because people like the history lessons on this channel. That's what I've been told, at least. When we had them last time, there was a very, very clear number one. It was computer search. No ifs, no buts, no maybes, no mucking around. Computer search was the number one by a huge margin. This was the de facto. This was the play this unless you've got a good reason to play something else. It was, and remember, Ace Specs are one of any copy in your deck. So you put one computer search in your deck and you cannot put a second copy of that or any other Ace Spec in your deck. But you discard two cards from your hand, search your deck for any card, and it helped you get rolling in the early game. Great card, that was the de facto. Outside of that, there was one other that saw significant play, and that was Dowsing Machine. Now, to be fair, Dowsing Machine was still best in Darkrai. Make no mistake about it, Darkrai EX was the main use for this, and essentially, it was because of Dark Patch. Like, there's other reasons, but no mucking about here. It was largely for Dark Patch. There were, like I say, there were others. I know there were others, but having access to a fifth Dark Patch was big. Dowsing Machine let you discard two cards from your hand, very much like Computer Search, but then you put a trainer card from your discard pile into your hand. It was cool. And generally speaking, Computer Search was your main one, but then you had Dowsing Machine for some decks, and then really you had G-Booster. And G-Booster was very much it was for Genesect. It was a tool that gave you an extra attack, that did 3 energy, 200, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, and it's not affected by any effects on the defending Pokemon. And as you can see from like Darkrai and Genesect, 200 back then was plenty. 200 was a huge amount of damage, and you couldn't play Genesect without this. You literally couldn't. Genesect only worked because of this card, and I actually had a game at Nationals against the lovely Dan TDM, he's all famous now and everything, where he figured out that my G-Booster was prized, and shall we say, knowing I had no access to it, remember, they are one per deck. Yeah, that game didn't go very well, frankly. That game didn't go well at all. Of course, it was one per deck, but it's very much worth remembering we did have a way to get it back. We had Shadow Triad at the time, let you put a Team Plasma card from your discard pile into your hand. So, yes, you absolutely could keep getting it back. So, it was okay. It wasn't when it gets removed, when the first Genesect gets KO'd, it's gone. We had Shadow Triad to bring it back. And then everything else was super fringe. Yes, there was the odd deck that played Scoop Up Cyclone, that put one of your Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hand, but it was a very fringe card. Yes, there was the odd deck that played Scramble Switch, for instance, let you switch into the active and move all your energy over to it. Generally, the way Scramble Switch worked was that you would use this in testing, and if you had a couple good games in testing, you'd go, this is broken, and then you'd go to tournaments and be like, this never works, why did I do this? And the answer was you had a couple good games in testing. And yes, we should mention the Life Juice Sableye combo. That was a little bit of a broken combo where you had Sableye that could recover cards, so you could, have Sableye KO'd, you didn't give up a prize card, and then you could just use Sableye to search for Life Dew, and then you'd be fine. Except actually that would give your opponent a turn to get a KO. What you would actually do here is you would use this with Puzzle of Time, and you would use Sableye to get Puzzle of Time. So you'd get KO'd with Life Dew, not give up a prize, and then immediately use Puzzle of Time to get Life Dew back and go from there. It was very much only in that deck, but it did see a bit of play. So look, we did have some others. It really was a computer search show, let's be clear. But Dowsing Machine saw a bit of play, and then we did have outside play for Scoop Up Cyclone, for Life Dew, and for Scramble Switch. There was the odd Victini deck that played Victory Piece, that basically said you can use the attacks for free, which was quite nice, but that was very fringe. And then there were a bunch that just never saw play. Nobody played Master Ball back in the day. Nobody. G-Scope was just a worse version of G-Booster. I know some decks tried Rock Guard, but it was never actually good. And if you've got a deck list that actually saw play and success, drop it in the comment section. I don't remember Rock Guard being good. Gold Potion was not a good card. And Crystal Wall and Crystal Edge were for black and white Kyurem, and they were basically just never good enough. Yes, I know there was the odd black Kyurem EX that would play it to get up to 300 HP, but we had stuff that could hit for weakness and KO it, so it still was far from ideal, frankly. There were uses for a lot of the other Ace Specs. A bunch of them did see play. I am acknowledging that and letting you know. But I'm also telling you that generally speaking, computer search was absolutely everywhere. And there were fringe uses for a bunch of the others, but that was about it. Whereas if we look nowadays, I mean, look, we've still got the best, right? Prime Catcher is still the best, no ifs, buts, or maybes. This is the best, this is the de facto, this is the play this unless you've got another reason. And look, we're still early in Ace Specs at the moment. But there are an awful lot of decks that are finding another reason. Now, we still do have one that is pretty terrible garbage. It is Neo Upper Energy. That is the worst one by a mile. Yes, I know there are some Tinkerton decks that are running around and doing okay at City Leagues playing this. I know that has happened, but generally speaking, it's not really seeing any play. But there are a bunch of others that are. Even Master Ball, which saw no play last time, is seeing a bunch of play this time because it's legit in Lugia, because you really need to search out and discard your Archeops early to get the deck rolling, and this will actually make you be able to do that more consistently. Even Master Ball is good this time round. We've got Maximum Belt, which is seeing play in a bunch of decks because doing that extra damage is good. Take a Giratina deck, for instance. Will you naturally hit 280, but you need to hit up to 330 to get stuff like Charizard, for instance? Well, looky here. This will allow you to do it quite nicely. There are decks like Great Tusk that really need to try and stay alive. So playing Hero's Cape to get an extra 100 HP actually becomes genuinely legit. Snorlax, a stall deck as well, also coming out. And playing this to, you know, get that extra HP and keep yourself alive and on the field for a little bit longer. These are, and don't get me wrong, they're not the main Ace Spec at the moment, but these are seeing a legitimate amount of play, and they are legitimate options. And I know some of the old ones did see play in some decks, but I don't remember seeing, and I was around at the time and playing very, very heavily, and I'm not saying the other ones didn't see play. I've acknowledged where a bunch of them did. I've been very clear and open about that. But the fact is that it really was computer search in the vast majority of decks, whereas here there is a lot more variety when you're sitting down at the table and seeing what's coming up. Obviously, ancient decks are going to want to be playing Drum of Awakening because potentially drawing 6 on an item card is nutty. Lets you draw 1 card for each ancient Pokemon you've got in play. And future decks are oftentimes going to want to use Reboot Pod because that gives you that injection of energy in the mid to late game, attaching 1 energy from your discard to each of your future Pokemon in play. And I'm not going to pretend that we don't have one overwhelmingly best Ace Spec. We do. But back in the day, everyone played computer search, and there were a few fringe decks here and there, that played others. The real big exception was Darkrai with Dowsing Machine and Genesect that obviously had to play G-Booster. It didn't work without G-Booster. And then there were a bunch of others floating around. And then in later times, Life Dew and Sableye. But it really did feel like every deck was mostly computer search. And there were loads, like I say, Crystal Edge, Gold Potion, G-Scope, Master Ball. Like, no one's playing those cards. They were all terrible. Not even fringe usage. You know, like I say, Crystal Wall, Victory Piece, Scoop Up Cyclone. You would see these running around sometimes. But when people were top cutting with Scoop Up Cyclone, they were writing articles saying, hey, look, I played Scoop Up Cyclone, aren't I clever? And a lot of the time the answer was actually, yeah, that's kind of cool. Nowadays, we got 7 that we're into, and I'm telling you, they are all, well, okay, that's a lie. 6 of them are seeing a lot of play. And it's not even, but it really does seem like Pokemon are doing a better job this time. And you know what? We've got more to come, and we might end up, if we get a third set of Ace Specs, we're going to end up with more than we had last time round. And it really does feel, from someone who was there and playing in tournaments constantly last time, and is still here this time, it really does feel like Pokemon have done a much better job getting these Ace Specs to be a real variety and make the game more interesting. So yay! That's what I think. I want to know what you think. Do you think the Ace Specs are as varied now as I'm making them out? Do you think it was a bit closer last time than I've let you know? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.